I got a question for you, Rob. Has there ever been a team that was trying to go for something we hadn't seen ever? 3 championships in a row, 3 Super Bowl titles in a row. The defending world champs that are 8-0 that nobody talks about or is really overly hyping? Because that's what's happening with the Kansas City Chiefs. And watching them yesterday, they did exactly what I told you. You and I were sitting here watching the game, and towards the end of our show, I was watching the Bucs, and I think they got a turnover, and they just couldn't score, and it was just the game was hovering too close. I said, this is how you lose to the Chiefs. This is literally becoming scripted. You know exactly what they're going to do. For the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career, the last year and a half, or season and a half, he can make a mistake, throw a turnover, fumble the ball. Travis Kelce fumbles a couple times, loses one yesterday. And the defense can look at that offense and Patrick Mahomes and say, don't worry about it. We got you for once. We got you. Don't even worry about it. Patrick Mahomes, now with DeAndre Hopkins, who I knew was going to be a fit as far as having somebody with steady hands, somebody who can be dependable, somebody who can be reliable and make big plays when you need them. They just finally make the right play or two and win the game. And you look up, it's exactly what I thought it'd be 24-20, ended up being like 26-20. They're just marching and moving along exactly where you kind of thought they'd be, methodically. And all of a sudden, they're sitting here at 8-0, and it's like nobody's having a conversation about the team that is having a chance to go for three-peat, reigning champs, and we don't talk about them. And I was just watching last night, laughing like, this is probably what they want. We fly under the radar somehow, if you will. I'm radar-ish. I mean, obviously, there's the champs, so we talk about them a bit, but not as much as we do either teams who are floundering and the Cowboys and the Jets, or this team who doesn't look good, or maybe the Lions or the Ravens, or, hey, don't forget about those Eagles making a comeback. And the Kansas City Chiefs are sitting here right on schedule to be doing what the Patriots did, go undefeated, and obviously they want to do what they did and didn't do and win a Super Bowl. But I'm just like, man, they're 8-0. And we don't even talk about them. And I'm not saying necessarily you and I, but like we as a whole, people aren't really talking about this team that has a chance to make history and go 3-0, 3 straight Super Bowl titles.
Yeah, I'm not surprised because you talked about it earlier about they have the 8-0 record, but it hasn't been that impressive. Like that's the reason why. If I remember correctly, the Patriots, they were blowing people away.
Offense was crazy. Randy Moss, 27 touchdowns.
Exactly. Yeah. It was just, they were putting on a show. And you haven't seen this. I think all of the Chiefs' wins this year have been less
7 and under or something like that.
6 and under or something like that. Like really, really all close games that could have gone, a couple that could have easily gone other ways. And only, is this the Chiefs right here? Oh, this is the Patriots. Okay. So only 4 of their wins were less than 2 scores.
They were blowing everybody out.
Right. And that's what the difference is. So they were riding a wave and you felt like, oh my God, you're watching this team. Whereas really this was Patrick Mahomes' best night.
Yeah, last night.
8 weeks in, right? 8 games in. Like there were a lot of games where he had 2 picks and no touchdowns, or 1 touchdown and 2 picks, and they needed something to happen for them to win. And I think that's why people aren't there yet. Now, if you get into it and it's 15 or 13 or 12, and they're playing better like they played in the second half, second half especially, because the first half was not good, right?
Well, yeah, we were sitting there watching it.
We're like, this is bad, but the second half was really good. And I think that was the one that if they were to continue, and even now they still won, right, by a touchdown, right? Okay, did they blow out Tampa Bay? No, they did not. No. The game was in Kansas City. They needed overtime to win. So
they should have. If you're the Bucs, you felt like if you're a fan of the Bucs, why didn't they go for 2 to beat them?
Right.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
To beat them. Yeah.
So I think that's the reason why we haven't gotten that crescendo, that high pitch, that why people are like going crazy, like, and they know how hard it is to win 3 straight Super Bowls because nobody's ever done it. So many things can happen. There have been a lot of injuries. There's just a lot of stuff going on. And despite the record, there's still as a sense of vulnerability to me.
No,
with the Chiefs.
I don't think you're crazy. I mean, they've been beatable, but what's weird is they can't be beaten. And that's the craziest, scary part of it to me. And I mentioned this before we've had the conversation about them. One of the things I've seen teams do is they start to outthink themselves because they're outthinking the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and the history that they come in with, right? You know, they come in with a couple of Super Bowl wins in a row, and they just seem unbeatable. And, I mean, they literally are right now as undefeated. So you see teams who should have beaten them start outthinking themselves, start not, making wrong decisions, start trying to do something they're not. It even started with the AFC Championship game, right? You had the Ravens who should have beaten them had they just did what they do, but all of a sudden they start out thinking, we're going to try to do this. Well, don't run the ball because if we try to do just be who you are, do what you do, and you have a chance to beat this team. But for whatever reasons, teams can't beat them. And watching the game last night, I just laughed. I was talking to Rob G. I said it's so comical how predictable their games are this season in that they just stick around. Their offense isn't that explosive right now. They can't just make the plays that they used to, but they just hang around. You don't capitalize on a turnover. Maybe you got a field goal, that's it. Or maybe you got the turnover and you punted it, and they just stay around. And every 8 minutes or so, Patrick Mahomes, 10 minutes, will make a play that you go, oh, he's Patrick Mahomes. Last night did a couple of passes to DeAndre Hopkins where you go, okay, that was ridiculous. And then now you have a guy like a DeAndre Hopkins who's making a couple of touchdown passes, and you start to sleep. Travis Kelce had a big night for himself. They're starting to slowly get this thing rolling. Kareem Hunt, he's recycled, but he's there recycled, and it's working a little bit. Got in the end zone. And I'm like, the league is letting them figure this thing out. The league is letting them get DeAndre Hopkins, who, I can't believe they got him. I remember saying that in real time with you. And I'm like, they're slowly starting to figure this thing out. Well, we're going to look up, and to your point, they're going to be like 12-0, 13-1 or 2. I'm like, oh, they're about to potentially win a third Super Bowl in a row.
I still think they're beatable. I still think they're vulnerable, even with an undefeated record. I don't. And I'm not saying, like I said, Patrick, that's the best he played all year.
Yeah, I'm saying, what if this starts to get this thing rolling?
But what if this is a high water mark, which is you needed overtime?
He can't go backwards though, because he ain't been the Patrick.
No.
Mahomes.
But he could level, like this was the best game. Doesn't mean that every game's going to be like this. And even then, it took overtime at home to win the game. You get my point?
No, I get it.
Like they haven't had the games where they just come out like those days seem like so long ago when they used to just wreak havoc, right, offensively, and you were out of the game at halftime. They were just like piling up points.
You know
on
what
you.
else we forget about?
It just feels like there's going to come a moment or a situation or a circumstance where it's not going to work out for them. It keeps working.
Yeah, but I know, and that's the thing. So remember this too. Remember the Chiefs. Rob G, it was 2 years ago, Rob G, when they went on that Super Bowl run. It was 2 years ago when they were down 10 every game, right? And in the postseason. They were down 10 every game, and you're like, here they go again. And they kept winning. So I think it's been a little while before we got what we are used to seeing when they're 32, 35 points a game, Patrick Mahomes throwing no-look passes like he's Magic Johnson Mahomes. I kind of think that's been a little further behind. Even last year, he wasn't as spectacular. He's still, good, but not by his standards.
Right, by what we were used to seeing.
100%. So I'm starting.
Anybody who says it's the same, they're not being honest.
No, I think he's regressed to. He still can do other things that other quarterbacks can't, and when the timeliness of when he does it. That's kind of what makes him. He has to pick his spots more now, not having a plethora of offensive players and skill players. But man. They weren't just beating people down on the championship runs. Down 10, down 10, down 10, coming back down 10 in the Super Bowl. So they're kind of just this weird team that have been able to do it a multitude of ways, blowing you out, coming from behind every game. This year, more of a hanging in every game, not the prettiest. But at the end, they just win. And I think there's something to the mental aspect, the belief that, we're going to get it done. And like every last one of us in this studio, I don't know, maybe not you, but if they're down 4, 1 minute left, a timeout, they have the ball, I'm putting my $100 on they're going to win. They just know how to do it. We've been there before. There's something to having done this before.
I'm not as confident. If I had to say, are they going to win a third straight Super Bowl, I say no. I really do. I
got the Lions winning over them, but I hear you.
I really think like they have been very fortunate, and we talk about it all the time. Remember, they were leading the game against the Ravens, and the Ravens came back late, threw a touchdown that would have tied the game, but his foot was on the line. Like stuff like that.
But how long before it keeps happening though? Like we're just winning.
No, I get it, but I'm just saying that's why it just doesn't feel like, oh my God, there's no way you're going to stop.
Why you don't feel the opposite though? Why don't you feel, man, they should have lost this one, they should have lost, they had a chance. You just can't beat them. Like, why don't you feel the opposite way?
Because in football is not a series, so you can lose one game. It's all it takes.
Right, anybody can lose a game. I'm just saying,
that's my point. Is that it's worked and it keeps working. But what if you're in the AFC Championship game this year, right? Like last year when they didn't score any points in the second half, they still won the game, but they didn't score any points in the second half. Or there's an intercept when they lost to the Bengals at home to get to the Super Bowl. Mahomes threw a late interception, which led to a field goal, and they lost. Like, he threw a pick.
Right.
That's how they lost that game. Like, some circumstance or situation, and his play could lead to something like that. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but they don't feel like, even though they've won 2 in a row, the last year was another year, they didn't feel like they were that dominant to me. They won when they needed to when they got in the playoffs. But it was a rocky, uneven year, and I look at this one.
On their 4th, 5th championship. You're going to be like, I just feel like they can – hear me out. They can lose this one. I'm like, Rob, this is the 5th in a row, Rob. What more do you want?
I don't think that they're as dominant as their record.
I think it's scary that they keep winning despite they technically should lose, or they should have lost this one, or there's no way they won this one. And they keep winning. To me, that's even scarier because I see their trajectory going up of Patrick Mahomes is only going to play better. Travis Kelce is starting to get back to Travis Kelce-ish. And now they got DeAndre Hopkins, and the defense is absolutely great. That's scary now. I'm like, well, what? We had a chance to beat them. Now I'm worried we won't have a chance.
Yeah, I'm not there. I think that they can be beat. They haven't been beaten, but I think they can be beat.